Welcome to This Week in Colerain Cardinals Athletics here on wearecolerain.com. My name is Jason Griefer. We are joined by Colerain Assistant Athletic Director Mike Wiseman, and we also have a special guest joining us here on the podcast this week. It is softball head coach Emily Schwebel. Coach, welcome in here, and we'll get to your team here in depth here in just a few moments. But Mike, I want to start with you and kind of take a loop and feature some of the other sports we'll be talking about here as the season winds down here. First off, let's start off with boys tennis. In the last week, did pick up a nice 4-1 win over Hamilton, so starting to build a little bit of momentum as the regular season's winding down. We do have the GMC Championships coming up later on this week, this Thursday and Saturday. We've also learned the postseason draw, singles and doubles coming up as well. How has the team looked in training over the last week, and also what are they hoping to accomplish up there in a very difficult GMC tournament?
Obviously fighting the weather right now and trying to find some time to practice has kind of been difficult here of late. But like we've talked about previously, we've got some good seniors that have been there and have had some experience. So they're obviously leading the charge with practice and training to make sure that the young guys that are participating in GMCs that have never experienced that before and then into the tournament, that they can provide that experience. But, they're grinding. It's late in the season. It's late in the school year. Everybody's getting to that point where they're just trying to get through and, do the best that they can. Tonight we have, hopefully, they'll get senior night in tonight. We've got 4 seniors that we're going to recognize tonight. So great night for them, and looking forward to some special things from them this coming weekend.
Let's switch gears. Let's move to baseball right now. And this is a very top-heavy league. Nothing has been decided as far as a league crown goes in baseball. You've got so many teams jammed at the top, and your team has a chance to basically wreck everything for more than one team. You've got 2 games with first-place Oak Hills coming up this week. You also have 1 more to go against Mason. You played them tough a couple weeks back, lost only 4-3, but these 2 teams are right there as far as the league championship goes, to try and claim that outright right there. You get any sense of any added motivation right now, knowing that we know what the standings are, and the fact that your team, who has been playing better as of late there, has a chance to go in and basically ruin it for either Oak Hills, Mason, or both?
I think that's obviously something that you could key on as a coach to say, hey, look, we may not have had the greatest GMC record right now, but let's do some damage now. Let's shake some things up. I mean, we obviously have the starting pitch and they can do it. And for the most part, I'd say we're pretty healthy. So in order to, we can throw our number 1, our number 2, and I think we can pretty much compete with anybody. And so, having that confidence and then win a game like that, make it close, that gives you a lot of added fuel going into the postseason draw coming up here shortly. So I think overall, I think that's obviously a bit of motivation for them, and hopefully that they can kind of come through on that.
We'll see when next week we do indeed have some things to brag about there, if they do indeed wreck things for potentially Oak Hills and Mason. All in 1 week here. Before we get to Coach Schwebel and talk about the softball team in depth, also wanted to mention something we've talked about in the past year on the show that eventually came to fruition since we last spoke, and that was signing day. You had some chance for some more student athletes to put pen to paper and make it formal as far as where they're going to continue their college or begin their college athletics careers. To take us through signing day.
Signing day was great. We were able to bring family and friends in for the event. We had 3 sign. We had Josh Ringer sign for football, Thomas Moore, Noah Sears for baseball, and then Maui Nevis for wrestling. So 3 great young men. Have taught all of them. Never coached any of them, but have taught them all. But great young men, and I think they'll be great assets to the programs that they're going to be joining. So congrats to them. It was nice to get parents back. Kind of a somewhat normal feeling with bringing them in, not having to stagger starts. So we were able to kind of do a live session with Waycross was able to come in and help us out, do a live session with that. So just to be able to give them some recognition, and because they obviously deserve it. And obviously in this year is something that anything great we can do, we look forward to doing that.
And those kids deserve it, given everything they've had to go through just to make sure they had the opportunity to play and participate this year to earn themselves that accomplishment. So congratulations to them. More information about that on wearecolerain.com. Let's now bring in our featured guest, softball coach Emily Schwabel. Coach Schwabel, first of all, we do appreciate your time here. Looking at the way this season has gone, we'll talk about one game in particular here in just a moment, that being Monday's game against Middletown. But I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on how this season has been personally for you to manage, not only with all the protocols and everything we have to do and games getting moved around, postponed, canceled because of protocols, because of weather, all of that, but also trying to navigate this GMC who on a daily basis brings a gauntlet to your doorstep and may potentially produce a state champion.
Yeah, we definitely have a very tough schedule. Yeah, and if you look at our record, yes, it's not the best that we've had, but I will say throughout the year, we have continued to grow. And that's the biggest thing we preach to our girls is, we do play some really tough competition. And typically we do have a team that, makes it to the state finals or has a chance to win state. And honestly, we may have multiple teams that, have a chance to do that. So we play a tough conference, but our biggest thing is that we want them to compete. So we adjust as best we can, from game to game, and we take the little wins. So, we have a good hitting day, a good fielding day. Once, try and carry that into the next day. Try and get the wins that you can with the teams that, we're more matched up with, I guess. But, we hang in there as best we can, regardless of the score. I still remember back, we were losing a game by quite a bit of runs, and I look over, it's the last inning, and every single girl's up cheering and yelling and screaming and having a great time. So regardless of the situations we've been in this year, and some of them, not being ones that we want to be in, the girls have been very positive and continue to grow throughout the year. And even partway through the year, we went to Camp Kern for like a team building day, and I think that really helped a lot as well, because since then we've seen them just tremendously continue to grow and just become a softball family. And that's one thing that we've preached for all the years that I've been here is, this is a place that we're a family regardless of what happens. Like at the end of the day, yeah, we want to win some games. We want to be competitive. If we don't get that W, it's going to happen. But if we get out there and we compete, that's our main goal. And I will say we have been competing. And I know we're going to talk about yesterday's game here soon, but
yeah,
they've been putting up some numbers. They're hitting the ball. They're making plays. And yes, we've had to make some adjustments this year. We do have some injuries and things like that going on, but we're rolling with the punches as we can.
No, absolutely. You mentioned before we started recording, I came to you and asked you if there was anything specifically that you wanted to kind of focus on and draw a fan's attention to. And you said, yeah, the game yesterday on Monday against Middletown, your team winds up coming up short. You fall in that one 5-4 as both teams trade runs in the 5th and 6th innings, and Middletown's run on the bottom of the 6th winds up being the difference in that one in the loss there. But you talked about just a moment there during what you were saying there about taking little things from each game and trying to apply it to the next one. And you've also told me before we started recording, you felt that was one of the best all-around games you've played all season long. Despite that loss, what made you think that this was one of your best?
Yesterday, I mean, regardless of the score, from every single inning, I thought we had the game. We came out, we had runners on base, I'm pretty sure, every single inning. We didn't score, or no, we scored the first inning. We almost scored the second inning. We had a couple innings where Middletown had a couple really good plays that kind of ended the inning for us a little bit quicker than we thought. And at the end of the game, we only needed 1 run to tie it up, 2 to take the lead. And we had 2 girls in a row hit one to the fence, and, Middletown's outfielders tracked them down and they made some good plays. But defensively, I'm not sure if we had an error yesterday. If we did, it was maybe 1, but it wasn't something that was detrimental. But we had 2 double plays in the game. Ashley Childress had an incredible game yesterday. I think she had a total of she had 8 of the outs for yesterday's game, and 2 of those being double plays. And so our hitting came alive. And then actually Lydia Sparks, our pitcher, she threw a heck of a game. I even told her yesterday at the end of the game, I said, man, you were throwing some heat today. Like you were doing good. So yeah, it was just an overall great team game, even though we didn't get the win. But and then it was a fun day too. After we were done, JV was actually still playing, and we rarely get the chance to go watch our JV girls. And we stayed, I think, another hour cheering on the JV girls, and they ended up pulling out the win against Middletown. And it was super fun. And really, I even said to my assistant coach yesterday, I said, this is what I love. This is our softball family right here. And the varsity girls were, all into it. And it was a fun day all around, regardless of us, still not getting the win. I mean, we were right there. We played a heck of a game, and I was really, really proud of our girls. And they made some awesome plays and had some great hits and things like that. And then, yeah, our JV girls brought home the win for us.
Mike, let me bring you back in here to that point there. When you see a team like this that has been struggling, as Coach talked about here, and it's you look at the standings, the numbers are what they are, but to see their attitudes not really diminish as far as positivity goes throughout the year, and then come after a game like this against Middletown where you seemingly do everything right, you still come up on the losing end of it, and yet after the game, they want to stay behind and they want to cheer on the junior varsity squad. They want to try and propel them onto a win. And who knows, maybe their added cheering helped them onto that win. What's that like for you to watch as an administrator?
Obviously, I think it's a great sign of the leadership and the community that they're building on their program. Being a part of many different sports here at Colerain, that's one of the things that as now an administrator, you want to see programs, not just teams that win. That's the biggest thing I preach is, how do we build programs, not just a bunch of kids that happen to show up and play together. So to see that is outstanding. That's something that obviously we want to see maybe carry through in all of our teams, all of our sports. But, you have to learn how to win too. So, sometimes that, those, for the most part, the softball team's relatively young. They do have a couple senior starters, but other than that, they're young. So a game like that, it can really help to propel them to understand, okay, maybe if we'd done this different or this different, we might have came out with a W there. So just staying positive is obviously a great first step because nothing ever really gets accomplished when you get mad at each other. So, good to see for them, good to see for the coaches that they've been able to keep it together despite some of the negativity or some of the, losses that negativity that comes with losses. So kudos to them. Proud to see that. And hopefully we can see it kind of carry into the tournament, maybe knock off a couple wins there in the tournament, and everybody kind of forgets a little bit about the regular season and do well in the tournament. So hopefully we can get there.
We'll talk about the tournament here in just a moment. Coach, Mike brought up something there I want to get your thoughts on here. The ability to not only manage a team on a day-to-day basis, but also, as Mike said, build up the entire program, not just have a group of individuals that shows up and tries to win right there. And that camaraderie between the varsity and the JV squads and the younger kids that are slowly starting to make their way in. How do you balance that as the head coach and trying to scout and prepare and game plan while also trying to make sure that you're as inclusive to all grade levels and try to build this program?
Yeah. Over the years, I mean, I think this is my 7th year here, 6 years as the head coach. Summer camp, try to get as many girls here as we can. There's a couple of girls that are on the varsity team this year that I've known since they were younger and, have kind of watched them, gone to summer ball games and things like that as they get, as they grow and get older. And then, we try to do everything as a program as much as we can during season. Obviously, it's a little bit harder. This year, we've been going separate ways a lot more because of, COVID and how we've had to schedule some games and busing and things like that. But like Camp Kern, we do that as a whole program. We we mix up our JV and our varsity squad. Like they learn how to, work together, not just as their own teams. And then, JV, as much as I can, I try to, watch their games when we get a chance, like yesterday. I'll hang around practices sometimes and, work with the girls if I can. And as much as I can get involved during season, I try to, even with our younger girls, it's a little bit harder. But I have an awesome JV coaching staff as well. Coach May, I actually played with at NKU. So she played collegiate ball, and so did Coach McCurry. Actually, all of our coaches played collegiate ball. So we have, a lot of knowledge among the 4 of us. And then my dad actually is one of our volunteer coaches as well. And he's coached me since I was younger and been through everything with me. So he's always a great asset and comes when he can and, hits with the girls outside the dugout during the game and things like that. So we have a great support system. The girls are very supportive of each other, but, to continue to build the program, it starts at summer camp, getting to know our younger girls and those coming up. And building our JV players as well. And, I know this year we have a JV pitcher who's doing a very good job. And I got to, watch her some yesterday. I'm excited for her to be up on varsity here, hopefully in the next year or so. And there's some other really good standout JV players, and you can just see over, even just this season, how much they have developed after they've been coached a little bit and, played some games. And it has been a while since we had a full season, since we didn't play last year. So some of those girls are catching up, but yeah, it's a constant process of, you trying to get involved as much as we can. But I mean, I also fully trust my JV coaches to help develop those girls as well. So, which is very nice to have. And it's a peace of mind for me knowing that they're taking care of business while we take care of business at the varsity level.
We're winding into the final week of the regular season. It'll actually conclude this weekend here, and you've got a series of games to get through here, which has been the story all season long. A lot of games, very few off days. You've got scheduled games with Sycamore, Fairfield. Oh, by the way, number 1 Lakota West to close out the regular season right here. I'm wondering, now that we know the postseason draw, and we'll get to that here in a moment, are you planning on using your team at 100% this final week of the regular season, or do you plan on resting some players to make sure they're ready for the postseason?
Well, with the injuries that we do have, it's kind of hard right now. We actually only have 1 sub. When JV is not playing, we do have 2 other girls who have been swinging between varsity and JV. So at that point, I would have 3 subs. So it's a little harder to rest some of the girls, but like today we've been rained out. So we'll have an easy practice, and we've had a couple of those here and there when our games get rained out or we have a weekend practice. So I think that'll be helpful tomorrow. We're taking on Sycamore for senior day. And then Thursday, we're now, we have Fairfield, but we're also doubling up and finishing a Hamilton game. So it's nonstop. We're going to rest as much as we can, but with the weather and just how the schedule is, it's tough, but we're hanging in there and they're pushing through. I'm proud of all of them. And I think yesterday they played really well too, because we did get some rest over the weekend.
You mentioned it, and Mike has as well, and I would like both of you to comment on this if I can. I'm wondering, with the injuries that you've had to this team, pitching staff, players in the field, and what have you, how much different would this season be if you would had your full allotment of players, if you would have your normal starting line, if you'd have your full allotment of starting pitchers? Mike, let me start with you. Obviously, the record is what it is at this point. How much different do you think it could be, and how much more competitive would this team have been this season in the GMC had they had the full allotment of Cardinals available?
Well, I think you can't look any further than her starting pitching. She hasn't really had her true number 1, but maybe a handful of games. So I think, and that's nothing against the girls that have been pitching. I mean, but it's experience, and and Emily can speak to this. She was a collegiate pitcher. She knows there's a difference between a number 1 and a number 2. There's a reason they're 1 and 2. So when you don't have your number 1, obviously, there's a little bit of setback from that. But I think a combination of not having your number 1 and maybe not having the depth, the competition that goes with having depth. That was something I struggled with, in the soccer program for years, is just having the depth to create that competition in practice. Say, hey, you're not making the cut, then you're not going to play today. So, that piece there kind of plays into it. So it's about just growing the numbers and obviously getting your kids to perform. But I would say, it's tough for me to say how many more wins. I don't want to put that on Coach Swaywood, but obviously with your number 1, you'd think you'd like to pick up a couple more wins. Some of those close games they had might have went the different way. So from the outside looking in, that's kind of would be my perspective on that.
Coach, how would you feel this season would have played out differently had you had your number 1 and some other players that have been out hurt?
I agree a lot with what Mike said. It's hard to put a number on it. We do play in a tough league, and regardless of if you have all your starters or not, there's still going to be some very tough games, and things will go your way and then they won't, some of the time. So I mean, yes, having our starting pitcher out has been a challenge, and we had to make adjustments. So that was part of the season was as soon as that happened, then we're adjusting. Our entire lineup changes. I think we have 5 different position switches at that point. And it's just adjusting. So yeah, I think we could add some more wins, or at least some closer games, and, been more competitive. But the girls have adjusted so well, and they have been more competitive since they made these adjustments. And As I mentioned about Ashley yesterday, she's our starting catcher typically, and she was phenomenal at shortstop. And she played shortstop her freshman year, and she's been back out there and doing really well. And then better and better as the days go by. So yeah, like I said, it's hard to put a number on it, but it would be helpful to have all your starters, especially your starting pitcher. Softball is a game of pitching, as people know. It's not baseball where you have a couple of them. Most people throw the same pitcher every day. So, I like I said though, I'm proud of them and how much they have adjusted. But yeah, it's hard to really say.
Sure, absolutely. And as you said, given how difficult this league is, it's hard to predict who can beat who on a daily basis, let alone trying to look back all year long. But nevertheless, not 100%. That can take away from some things for sure. Let me get your thoughts, both your thoughts on the postseason now. And as we said, we've got several games this week to finish out, but we already know the postseason draw that was unveiled over the weekend, and it will start next Monday, May the 10th. You draw Western Hills to open. As we look at the way the bracket's set up, if you beat them, number one Lakota West is waiting in round 2 there. So you may see them twice in a matter of 4 days' time if you're able to take care of business in round 1 there. Coach, first of all, let me get your thoughts on the draw, the way it broke for your team, and when it was announced, what your reaction was and how you feel about that Western Hills matchup.
So we were seeded, I think we were the 22nd seed. So quite a bit of the bracket had been filled in by the time, we had a chance. But what I saw was an opportunity to host a game that, we can get a win under our belt and be competitive. And, a lot of the other spots that I had been looking at, wanting to go into, they filled up as the picks went through. But, and honestly, the girls saw the bracket and we were talking about it yesterday, and they're excited that we get to host a game. We get to have a tournament game here. I don't think that's happened in a couple of years. So that's always exciting and fun. And then they're like, yeah, we have West. And most of the girls were like, let's do it. Let's go at them. Let's have fun. Let's, be competitive, and whatever happens. And yes, they're ranked number 1 and number 1 in the state and all this stuff, but they didn't seem down about it at all. And what's going to happen is going to happen, but we're going to go at it if we win that first game, and we're just going to compete. So, yeah.
Mike, what did you make of the draw?
We're looking forward to hosting. Yeah. We're starting there.
Yeah, that's a big deal, because obviously not everybody gets to host in the state tournament. So that's a good thing to have there, and put yourself in position to do that by the way you've played as the season has gone along. Mike, what did you make of this draw when it came out, and the fact that you had Western Hills in round 1, a winnable game there as they're seated below you there, and then that potential matchup with number 1 Lakota West in round 2, and the fact that, as Coach said, the girls are basically playing with almost a carefree attitude with it. Bring it on, let's go. They only have to beat the number 1 team once, and they may have the chance to do it in round 2.
Well, first, I think some people don't understand how some of these seeds and draws worked. Is the coaches vote on where the teams line up. And then from there, the first seed picks and so on and so forth through the bracket. So by the time you get to the 22nd, you're either forced to going and playing a number 5 seed in the first round, or you can kind of pick a home game and then kind of wiggle your way around from there. So, I think it was a great move. Get a home game. Kids always love home first round playoff games. The atmosphere is fantastic. And then from there, it's the state tournament. You have to beat somebody good at some point in time. So, let's get a win. Let's get some confidence, and then, take on the top dog and see what happens. I've been there, done that plenty of times with soccer. So, you're gonna have to beat somebody good to advance in the tournament, because that's just the way it works. So why not get it out of the way early and go from there?
Well, as the saying goes, third time's a charm, right?
There you go.
Well, you still got a chance. You still got a chance this coming Saturday, assuming Mother Nature cooperates there against Lakota West. I'm wondering, as we're winding down here, Coach, will you take anything, or maybe scout the game extra intently with the idea in the back of your mind that you could end up seeing them again 4 days later?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see them Saturday, which will be nice. It'll be fresh in our minds, and we already know who some of their top players are, and we've taken notes on things like that from previous games, and they definitely have standout players, and everybody knows that, especially everybody in the GMC. So we'll definitely pay even more close attention on Saturday, and keep note of a little bit, for everybody, not just those top players, and work from there and see what we can do.
As we said, all it takes is one opportunity. Of course, if you're going to pick one, it would be in the second round of the state tournament, but we still have to take care of business against Western Hills in round one when that time comes there. Coach, we thank you for your time. Best of luck to you going forward here, not only the rest of this week, but in the tournament as well. Mike, we appreciate your time once again. We'll look forward to reconvening here next week, once again on This Week in Colerain Cardinals Athletics here on wearecolerain.com and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.